things could be otherwise. How could things be otherwise? What other systems can we imagine? What other ways of living can we imagine?
Welcome to Innovation Springs. I'm your host, Hayley Blackburn, Innovation and Design Librarian, Program Director in C3 Innovation, and Affiliate Faculty with the Center for Research Frontiers in Digital Humanities. Now, this show spotlights the folks doing cool things across education, research, business, and thought leadership. Today's guest is a professor in philosophy talking about how they make philosophy more accessible and engaging through their global top-ranked podcast. Find out my favorite episode and what quiet resistance means. You can find more information and notes about the show at c3innovation.uccs.edu. Let's dive into the spring.
So, hi, I'm Dr. Jen Kling. I'm an associate professor of philosophy and department chair and director of the Center for Legal Studies and the co-director of the Center for Research Frontiers in the Digital Humanities and the coach of the UCCS Ethics Bowl team.
Thank you so much for joining. And wow, what an introduction. I mean,
a lot
Daenerys Targaryen has nothing on you. Titles.
It's so bad. These things just sort of happen. I don't know quite how they happen. They just sort of occur.
They just occurred. I love it.
Yeah.
And I'd love to pause on the associate professor, if you could just define what that means, in our world of kind of academics.
Absolutely. So what this means is, for starters, I'm on the tenure track. So there's 3 classes of faculty at the university. There are lecturers who are temporary faculty. There are full-time IRC, instructional research and clinical faculty, who are not on the tenure track. They don't. They're not compensated for research. They're full-time, usually teaching. That's the instructional or research or clinical faculty. I'm on the tenure line, which means that I'm sort of half and half. I'm half teaching, half research. I'm associate, which means that I have tenure, which is very exciting.
Ooh.
Thank you. But I'm associate, which means I'm not a full professor yet. There's another rank for me to attain.
Always one more goalpost.
They just keep
if I've
climbing,
learned anything from being in higher ed,
I know.
There's always one more milestone.
I know, but I'm so close. But yeah, I'm not a full professor yet, but I do have tenure, which is exciting.
That is exciting. And with all the things on your plate, can you walk me through a little bit of what is your day-to-day kind of work life, like balancing being the director of all these things, plus a department chair, teaching, research? Just give me a glimpse. Like, what was your Thursday like?
What was my Thursday like? So my Thursday, I got my kiddo to school. I'm also a mom, which is exciting, and a partner. So got my kiddo to school. I start my day with research.
Okay.
So I have a fairly ironclad rule for myself, which is that the first 45 minutes to an hour of my day is research.
Okay. I like that.
And I recommend it for everybody. So if you're struggling to get research done, write every day.
Yeah.
Every day you have to be moving that project towards being out the door. So usually that's my first 45 minutes to an hour. Then I transition into the tsunami that is email.
Right.
And so I will spend, I try for a half hour to 45 minutes of email just to get anything that's on fire, turn the fire off, or like turn the fire down, or transfer the fire to somebody else. Be like, here's a fire, I'm so sorry. And then if it's a teaching day, I'll prep for teaching. So it usually takes me half an hour to 45 minutes to prep for teaching. And that's everything from making sure I know what we're talking about that day, to prepping any activities, to looking over any annotations students have done.
Perfect.
If I'm teaching, I go teach. And then if I'm not teaching, I usually do some deep work on one of the various projects that I'm doing as a director or chair or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
So one of those things. And then I'll bounce back and forth between sort of deep work and email and trying to keep up with the myriad of things.
All the things. Oh my gosh. I really love that kind of tip, and almost like a small innovation of research every day. Like, find that time to write. How did you kind of come up or figure out that was going to be a schedule and a way for you to keep up with your creative, curious kind of research endeavors?
Yeah, so I actually can't take credit for that one.
Okay.
That one is a tip I got from the NCFDD.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
So which our university has a, so you're a member, they're amazing. So I recommend everything they do. And so the university has a group membership. And so I've done a lot of their trainings. And one of the trainings they do is for new faculty. They say, "Are you drowning?" And you've
Right?
basically
Like,
lost your
yeah.
research time. And the answer is
Yes,
yes.
I'm finding
Ugh.
that this semester. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. And so they actually have a series of trainings where they'll walk you through how to make a semester plan, how to make a semester schedule, and they give you a bunch of tips and tricks. This is one of them, of write every day. And I thought, there's no possible way I can do that. And then I just tried it for a week. And I was like, I'm doing this every day. This is great.
Actually
And a
worked.
semester plan is, I'd never had a plan for my research before. I just, all through grad school, you just sort of do what's next on the plate because that's all you're doing.
Right.
But when I started working as a professor, I was like, ooh, I need a plan so that I know what's supposed to happen
Who
when.
dat? Yeah.
um, and and so they really walked me through that. So that's from them. I can't take any credit
Okay.
for that.
Well, and a lot of, just innovation, strategy, just business models. A lot of what we do comes from
Yep.
being inspired, listening, learning from
Mm-hmm.
others. And so, yes, we love to give credit and we love to
Yeah.
take the ideas and make them, work for us.
Yeah.
One of the titles that you had mentioned was
So
with
many titles.
the Center for Frontiers in Research and Digital Humanities.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that and specifically like how did you end up working in that realm and sort of on that career track with kind of digital humanities?
Yeah. So I think there's two answers. One is about the history of the center on campus. So it's the long name is the Center for Research Frontiers in the Digital Humanities. We call it the DH Center,
Yes.
which is
Much
much
easier.
more straightforward. And so that center is really about bringing together folks who are doing research in the digital space, so what you might broadly call STEM research, and humanities research,
Mhm.
and saying, is there a way where we can bring these two fields together? So, because as a co-director, one of the really cool things I get to do is hear about all this cool digital humanities research that is happening on campus,
Yeah.
um, which you maybe wouldn't know about. But I get to hear about it because I hear from our affiliate faculty and they're like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm putting together a President's Fund grant application for this. Um, and you get to learn about all of that and about the very cool ways in which many of our affiliate faculty
Yeah.
are putting the digital humanities to work in their classrooms.
Okay.
So they're
Yeah.
saying, here's how I'm going to use the digitization of maps to change how I teach geography.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Or the digitization of texts to change how we can analyze them in English class.
Right.
And all of these really cool things.
Really cool thing. So it
Yeah.
sounds like the DH Center is
Mhm.
really at the heart of innovation, especially with some like maybe classroom pedagogy.
I would say so.
So I mean, it
I
seems
think.
like from what I hear, the whispers and
Yeah.
being kind of involved and going to those meetings, I'm definitely always inspired by
Hmm.
all the other affiliate faculty and what they're doing.
Such cool stuff.
And
Yeah.
I love that it's so cross-disciplinary
Hmm.
as well. Well, with that kind of innovator mindset that
Hmm.
you and your other co-directors and the
Yeah.
folks that you're around clearly have, how do you actually define like innovation and inspiration? Like what do those terms kind of mean in your world?
That's such a good question. Because I'm from a philosophy background. And so for me, inspiration is going to be anything that lets you see that the world could be other than it is.
Okay.
That's how philosophy tends to think of inspiration. Because a lot of what I do and a lot of what my research is in and a lot of what I teach, it says the world is this way.
Mhm.
Yes. But it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Things could be otherwise. How could things be otherwise? What other systems can we imagine? What other ways of living can we imagine? What other ways of learning can we imagine? And then what would it take to get us there?
Okay.
Are those good visions? Do we not want to go there for some reason? How are we thinking about this? And then in my classroom, I like to bring in a lot of information from other disciplines, right? From cognitive science, from psychology, right? From sociology, saying, okay, we've tried that. It didn't go great.
Yeah.
That might not be a reason to try again, but we should just bear all of this information from history in mind,
Right.
for instance,
Like,
right? So that, for me, that's how I think about inspiration.
okay.
And then innovation, which you also asked about.
Yes.
I think there's two different ways to think about innovation. One way to think about it is just anything new. It can just be newness. philosophers tend to be a little wary of newness,
Oh, why is that?
a little bit,
Do you think
because just because something is new doesn't mean it's better.
fair?
People sometimes mistake like difference for progress.
Yeah.
And philosophers love to make distinctions, and so we'll say just because it's different, just because it's new, doesn't mean it's better.
Yeah.
To determine the value of a thing, we have to think about what it is that we're trying to achieve and what do we care about.
Yeah.
What do we want to uphold?
Right.
What's the vision? What's the goal? And so I think we tend to distinguish innovation from newness,
Mm-hmm.
but then we also tend to think about innovation as um, ways of doing things that are not traditional,
Okay. Yeah.
but that maybe do get us at the goals that we're trying to achieve in a different way, or a way that makes sense of the way the world has changed.
Mm-hmm.
A classic example of this is I no longer ask my students to buy textbooks.
Okay.
Okay, because so 30 years ago, a textbook was the best way of conveying information to students.
Right.
Now,
Information
yeah,
dense and
mm-hmm,
portable and, relatively where the
mm-hmm,
tech was sort of accessible. You could be given
yeah,
out and purchased. Okay.
exactly, and pretty durable,
Yeah.
right? We know the shelf life of a book is
Yeah.
about 3,000 years. That's pretty durable.
They last.
That's pretty good.
You know.
One of the interesting questions I think in the digital realm is we don't actually know the shelf life of digital information.
True.
We don't know how long the hardware that's holding the software, that's holding the data will last,
Yeah.
because we haven't had it around for that long. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a genuine question, right? We've got a book. We know, so a book is a piece of technology. People don't think of it that way, but it is. It's deeply technological. And we know its shelf life.
Yes.
A hard drive, right? A little thumb drive or whatever. I can keep I can keep 1,000 books on that. But I don't know its shelf life.
Right. It's like, at what point will it
No.
corrupt? Will
Mm-hmm.
it break
Or just
down?
stop working,
Like, yeah.
right?
Will the circuitry expire? Like, we don't know. All the little like
Exactly.
magnets and pieces and bits and bobs inside of
Yeah. And
that,
so, and so you have to think there is, it's more innovative to do what I do now, which is I put all the readings for my students, are PDFs. I do them online so I can use group annotation software. That's awesome. But I'm aware that I'm doing something innovative,
Mhm.
that it is something different. I think it achieves my goals better to ensure accessibility, to get the students thinking about the reading before the class starts.
Yeah.
But I'm also aware that I'm using a technology that I don't know how durable it is.
Fair. Yeah.
I don't know the shelf life. And I just don't know that because we don't have the history.
Right.
For me, I tend to think of innovation as like it's doing something in a different way to get at the goal,
Right.
but being aware of its costs.
Yeah. I
Right?
love that. Keeping the goal in mind is I feel like one of the key things that I've learned through my teaching kind of side of the career is, it's the learning outcomes first, it's the goals first, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
different ways we can have assignments and activities and
Yes.
demonstrate knowledge if that kind of goal is first. And for me too, that's where a lot of the innovation inside like the classroom kind of came to mind.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and I also really appreciated, and I think that's an important piece, the distinction between new or different doesn't necessarily mean better. In kind of my realm of technical writing and just media and communication, very easy to get trapped in this spiral of
Yeah.
making what I would consider lateral changes to like a
Sure.
document or something that we're working on, where it is different and it is
For sure.
new, but it's not necessarily advancing what we're trying to communicate in a different way. And so it's not really innovative if I'm just spiraling around like, okay, I need to just stop making changes. Like it
Yeah.
is fine now. It's not progressing anymore.
Yeah, and I say this to my students all the time. I said, this is one of the burdens of philosophy. You're almost never finished with a thing because there's always changes. But at some point it will be done.
Right.
Because you just need to be done with
You
it,
just
right?
have
You just
to.
need to send it.
Yeah, my advisor told me, at some point you just run out of time. Like
Yep, and
it
that's
might
right.
not be done, but it has to be done.
It has to be done. It has to be finished, right? But I do think it's helpful because sometimes we get trapped in new, shiny, sparkly.
Yes.
I'm gonna chase the new, shiny, sparkly. And it's worth pausing and saying, am I chasing the new, shiny, sparkly because it's actually better or helps me to achieve my goal more efficiently or better promotes a value that I have? Or is it just shiny? And we like shinies because we're all secretly crows, right? Like, I think we just have to think about that.
I came across a podcast that you're on. You recently became the co-host of the
Yeah.
Hotel Bar Sessions
Mhm.
podcast,
Mhm.
where and I listened to quite a few episodes. I was like, I
Yay!
am
Thank
binging
you.
these now.
Yeah.
And it seems like kind of the goal is making a lot of these philosophical topics and also modern and just kind of what's happening in the world topics.
Mhm.
Honestly, really interesting and engaging to speak to in a way that's totally different than sitting
Yeah.
through a lecture. Tell me a little bit more
Mhm.
about like how did you become involved with this podcast and what do you see its sort of mission and innovative nature as?
Yeah. So I started as the Hotel Bar Sessions co-host this fall, which is exciting.
All right, a lot of
Everybody
new stuff
listen.
this fall.
I know this fall has been the season of change. Um, Everybody should listen to Hotel Bar Sessions, please.
Definitely.
And so the conceit of the podcast is all of the good philosophy happens at the hotel bar after the conference. So right, if you've ever been to an academic conference, you know we do a whole day of panels and
Yes.
lectures and discussion, and then everybody goes to the hotel bar, and that's where things get real.
Yeah.
Right, everybody go
Yeah.
right.
They're like,
um,
"Ooh, I did my like talk.
yep,
Now let's talk."
yeah, I was so good all day.
Yeah.
Now I need to know
Yeah.
what did you mean, right?
Right, I love that.
And so that's the that's where the name comes from. And the podcast has actually been going for a long time. It's one of the most downloaded philosophy
Mm,
podcasts in the United States,
okay,
which is pretty
yes.
exciting. We have global listenership, which is very
Congratulations.
cool. Thank
Amazing.
you.
And speaks to, right? Some of this
Thank
innovative
you.
people think it's new and
Yeah,
interesting
it's
in a way that's
mhm.
enduring at the same time.
Yeah,
Mm,
which I really love about it, because I think one of the long-standing issues in academia is that it's very hard to speak outside your specialized audience.
yes.
Um, and I think what we're doing on the podcast that's really innovative and cool is that we're talking about really these really difficult, important, deep philosophical ideas in an accessible way because we're just talking about it at the hotel bar.
Yeah.
You know, um, we're not trying to make it sound fancy. We're not trying to be highfalutin. We're just saying, yeah, this is what I think, and I think this is the background of this idea, and here's where I'm coming from. Where are you coming from? Let's get into it. And it helps people, I think, I hope, work through some of these really important issues and
Yeah.
recognize that philosophy is for everyone, which I firmly believe. I think everybody does philosophy. Philosophy is for everyone.
Okay.
People just don't recognize it.
Yeah. Maybe
Um,
they just don't label it as
yeah.
philosophy. They don't label it with all the same terms and concepts that, we would in any kind of discipline, but especially it's like something that, yeah, I think we enact and engage in every day, even if we
Hmm.
aren't saying, oh, I'm philosophizing about this.
But exactly, right? Anytime you see something on the news or somebody does something to you and you think, wow, was that good? Was that bad?
Yeah.
Am I mistaken? Are they mistaken? Should things be this way? Really? Can we
Yeah.
really not do any better?
Hmm.
People are doing philosophy.
Yay.
They're doing it. But I think there's a stereotype of philosophy as this sort of thing that is done in the ivory tower and you must be
Right.
very serious.
Hmm.
Philosophy for me is a space of play.
Yeah.
It's a chance to play with ideas. It's a chance to play with concepts. It's a chance to do something in community, to talk together and figure out something new from that conversation.
Yeah.
I often describe philosophy as a team sport.
Okay. Okay. Love that.
I'm an old athlete. So for me, philosophy is a team sport. And what I think is really cool about the podcast is my team used to just be my academic friends.
Yes.
But with the podcast, my team now is anybody who listens, which is
Yes.
really cool. So I've just magnified my team by like 5,000 people. That's awesome.
Gosh. Oh, I love that. Do you get like listeners writing in and
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
comments on the show?
Yeah. So that's how I got to be a co-host on the show.
Okay.
So I've listened to it I sort of, I'm a very long time listener, first time caller.
Mm,
And so I've listened to it for a long time. And they had an episode on Hannah Arendt's The Origins of Totalitarianism, which is a
okay.
text that I teach
Oh,
and I think about a lot because my area of research is political violence
great.
um, and war and peace. And so they did an episode on that text, which is a beautiful text and really interesting. But I thought they had missed a really core part of it.
Okay.
Such a
Like,
philosopher thing to say. You actually missed the important part.
excuse me.
Yeah, just have a comment. And so I wrote in and I said, I loved what you said and how you talked about it, but I wanted to just say, I would have liked you to talk about this more. And I actually, got in a conversation with the co-host, and then a co-hosting spot opened up a few months later, and
You got the call.
here I
Called
am.
up to the big
So
leagues.
yeah, so it was exciting. But that does happen, right?
Yeah.
And which is so cool because it means we're not, you worry about being in a void.
Yes.
And philosophy never wants to be in a void. And I think that what's so cool about the podcast is we can tell we're not in a void anymore.
Yeah.
And
have, like,
we're getting out there.
artifacts of engagement, that we are in
exactly.
that void. I love that. So you're talking about play and how you kind
Yeah.
of feel like the podcast really captures that essence of play when it comes to philosophy. I
Mhm.
definitely agree. The episodes that I've listened to, I really appreciated how it is a lot of like back and forth across, yourself and your other co-hosts. And you kind of like sometimes there's like a little bit of tension as you disagree a bit, but then it always sort of circles back around to a new kind of place of co-constructed understanding, which I think is really, really interesting. I was listening on the drive up to like Fort Collins with my spouse to visit like his family, and we listened to the one on therapy. And that then
Yes.
sparked us to kind of have a interesting
Good.
play-based conversation. And we was
That's so
like,
good. That's the goal.
okay, like what are we gonna think about that? So that was one of my favorite episodes to
Nice.
listen to that created then a new, relational building core memory.
Mhm.
What is your favorite episode you've recorded so far, or like conversation
Ooh,
that you
yeah.
just walked away being like, wow, I'm so glad I was part of that conversation?
Yeah. So I'm really glad that you listened. Thank you. And I'm so glad that happened because that's exactly the goal.
Yeah.
Is to get folks, thinking about something you might not have even thought about before, and then you're like, I've got thoughts.
Yeah.
Let me talk about those thoughts with another person and keep the dialogue going, because philosophy, again, it's all about dialogue. It's all about conversation. So I'm glad. I really actually enjoyed the therapy episode.
Yeah, I felt like there's definitely a lot of disagreements, especially at
Yeah.
the beginning, and
Yeah.
we had all
We
come
were
around
not on the
to
same side. Yeah.
Sunday
Um,
middle ground, but yeah.
For sure. So actually one of my favorite episodes that we've done so far is the episode we did on quiet resistance
Okay.
with Tamara Fakhri, who is a philosopher at the University of Minnesota who writes about quiet resistance,
Okay.
which is a kind of resistance that's different from protest, and it's different from revolution, and it's different from complicity.
Yeah.
She's arguing that there's another kind of way people can resist oppression and domination that mostly Western philosophers have missed.
Okay, yeah.
Which I think is really cool. And so she came on the podcast and we talked about her article and tried to understand this concept of quiet resistance, which is not a common concept in liberal democratic theory. And I really enjoyed that. And I thought that was so cool to hear about, especially because these are issues that I work on, to hear about something so different and yet so immediately relatable.
Yeah.
When she talks about it. So quiet resistance is when you resist oppression, you do something, like you do an activity that's restricted, or you're not allowed to do it because you're a member of an oppressed class.
Yeah.
But you do it because you love it. You don't do it because it's resisting the oppression. So the example she gives is the Palestinian rock climbing club.
Okay.
So there are Palestinians who have started a rock climbing club. Now, Palestinian movement, as we know, is exceptionally restricted. It's almost impossible for this rock climbing group to get to the crags and climb.
Okay.
And they do it anyway.
Yeah.
And they've been interviewed, right? Folks say, why do you do this? It's so dangerous, and you can really get hurt or even killed or imprisoned because by trying to move through these very restricted spaces to get to the mountains.
Yeah.
And they say, I'm a rock climber. I love rock climbing. You're not, like, sure, they can try to stop us, but this is what I adore doing. This brings meaning to my life. I'm going to do it. I'm a human. I get to do things that I love.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of like resistance through like live your life.
Yeah,
in a
exactly.
way, like finding, or I guess it sounds like it's not necessarily the intention of resisting that makes it the quiet resistance, but in just living your life,
Doing the thing.
being a human, doing the things that like
Mhm.
bring joy, then you kind of become a resisted
Yeah,
force.
you're resisting, right? The
Okay.
social meaning of your action
Yeah.
is to resist oppression, even though you don't set out to resist oppression.
Yeah.
And Tamara argues this is a whole category of activity
Yeah.
that you can do
Hmm.
that Western philosophers just miss.
Interesting.
Because we only think about really public protests, right? We
Right.
tend to think about things like civil disobedience or protest or revolution. And she says, there's this other thing you can do. You can love things.
Right.
And I just think that it was such a cool conversation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I
So
have not
I
listened
loved
to
that
that episode yet, but now it is on my immediate like
Yeah.
TBR, TBL, I guess.
Yeah.
Y'all should listen. It
Please,
sounds
yeah.
good.
It was such a cool discussion because
Yeah.
what was cool about it was it's such an as soon as she explains the concept,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I can think of 6 examples.
Right.
But before she explains the concept, you're like, what is this? I don't understand. This doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense, right? Yeah.
Right, kind of like feel my immediate kind of ding, which it's obviously not this
Mhm.
at all, but I went
No,
to
for
this
sure.
term of like slacktivism
Yeah,
that we get in like
yeah.
media studies a lot, where
For
it's like,
sure.
oh, I posted, and it's like my quiet resistance. He like
Right.
posted the black square, and it's like,
Yeah. And this is the core of philosophy. Like this is philosophy at its best, I think.
Yep.
Is it gives you a way of looking at the world that you didn't even know was possible.
Yeah.
Like you didn't even know you were missing it, but then
Yeah.
she gives this category and these examples and this way of thinking, and you're like, oh, my entire view of the world just
Right?
changed. That's so
Paradigm shift.
cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I mean, thank you.
So-
I'm like walking away now.
Yeah, I know, you have
with
a whole new
little
way to think
mini
about your
shift,
life.
So
Yeah.
I love that.
Wow.
Anything else that you would like to plug or add
Oh my
that
goodness.
you're working on? Any of your centers have upcoming
Yeah.
events in the next year? Well,
Next year's a lot. But I will say everybody should listen to Hotel Bar Sessions. Please come give us a listen, like and subscribe. I think that's what I'm supposed to say. I know, I don't know.
we'll make
what
sure
else
to have
say.
the links in the
Yeah.
description for you.
Yeah. And I would also say that I'm the director of the Center for Legal Studies.
Okay.
It hasn't come up a lot, but I work with a lot of students who are interested in getting into the legal field, going to law school. And please keep an eye out. We are going to be having a lot of events in the spring.
Okay.
So we're going to be having some networking events with sort of local folks who are working in the legal field. We're gonna hear from some UCCS students who have gone to law school.
Nice.
They're gonna spill the tea on what law school is really like.
Love
so
that.
Please keep an eye out for those.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, Jen, thank you
Yeah,
for
of
like
course.
this conversation. I'm walking away with many things that I'm going to be like cycling through in my brain for a while. So I
Good.
really appreciate you taking the time to tell us all about the innovation and just like curiosity that you really bring to this campus and the work that you do.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. This was so fun. I appreciate it.
Cool. And that's today's journey into innovation. Now, want to explore the research and ideas we mentioned today? Everything is linked in the show notes. If you want to be a guest, I'd love to hear your story. Find the submission form at our website, c3innovation.uccs.edu. Innovation Springs is a production of C3 Innovation at the UCCS Kramer Family Library. Studio recording is provided by the Garage at EPIIC. Hayley Blackburn is an affiliate faculty member in the Digital Humanities Center. Theme music is from Simon Trumpf-Lipine, Dreaming of Innovation, Storyblocks. Follow at c3innovation.uccs on social media and check out our website for events, programs, and more opportunities. For more content on the digital humanities, head over to labs.uccs.edu/CREFDH. And for more innovation initiatives, go over to EPIIC.uccs.edu with our friends in EPIIC. See you next episode.